What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Essential Scares podcast, the show where we watch and play our way through the horror world to determine what is truly essential to the genre. I am your host, Corbin. With me today is Bobby.
Oh my god, who's this new guy with the new intro?
Alan.
Good evening.
And back from the dead, Grant.
What's up?
We have got a great show for y'all today. We're going to be discussing Lights Out, an almost full-length movie based on a YouTube short film by director David F. Sandberg. But before we get into it, Bobby has a spoiler warning.
Oh my god!
Oh no.
I wasn't ready.
Oh no.
Okay.
Bobby, bring us in.
I am absolutely delighted to do that for you, Corbin. This will serve as your first one and only spoiler warning for the hit film Lights Out. If you don't want that movie spoiled for you, definitely don't watch the YouTube short, but also skip to the time code ahead. Lights Out proves once and for all that all PG-13 horror is bad. Grant.
Wow. All right. So that's the open that I get, huh? Wow. That's some premiere Bobby treatment. But yeah,
Only
I mean,
the best.
This is a movie that I've wanted specifically Bobby to watch for a while. So the fact that he's already roasting it does not bode well. But because I know I watched it with Corbin before. And
Yeah, we saw it in the theater, right? Together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a good movie. My second time watching, especially after my dip into the horror genre, definitely has altered my feelings about it somewhat, but I don't think it's completely changed. I still think it's a fun movie. So,
Okay.
yeah.
We're all entitled to opinions.
So, one of my first notes goes like this. Is this going to be a worse version of Weeping Angels? And then approximately 5.5 seconds after that, I wrote, yep. I think the Weeping Angels episode of the first one in Doctor Who does this kind of concept better than Lights Out by a pretty big margin.
The first time they I'm sorry. The second time they show whatever Diana, right? That's the demon.
That's
lady's name.
Yep.
Right. I wrote LMAO. This is just all this movie is going to be, isn't it? And I wasn't wrong. But what I didn't expect to happen was for there to be a 45-minute chunk of the film going into deep, rigorous discussion about Diana's backstory for no fucking reason. They went the Resident Evil route of just giving you everything.
I think the core issue with that is that they spend so much time telling you who and what Diana is, and at the end of the movie, you're still like, okay, but what was she?
Was she a ghost, or did she have a skin condition that turned her invisible? Was she a demon?
There are no answers.
In her real life, she had a skin condition, but then she became whatever she is now. And that's what gave her, I guess, superhuman strength.
Yeah, but how? They explain everything about her, except for the thing that's interesting, right? You know two things about Freddy Krueger, right? You know that he became a demon because he got burnt alive, and two, he was a child murderer, quotation, quotation, quotation. Right? So you know those two things about him, and then he's just awful. And you're like, God, Freddy Krueger. This, Diana was a kid. She was allergic to the sun. She was in a mental institution.
Mm-hmm.
She berated her roommate, who happened to be the main character's mom. You knew that she had dark hair and she had a mean personality. You know all these things about her. And then they go, we don't know what's happening. And then there's just her being Ash and it's like, what is who? Why do I don't care? That's what I found myself just thinking of. I was like, what is happening, and why don't I care?
And what was that experimental UV super blast treatment that
Oh man.
I almost want that movie, like the movie that ends
her
with
mental
her
asylum?
being like, yeah, I don't know. That sounds interesting. I think I don't know.
Yeah, like I never saw A Cure for Wellness, but I'm sure that movie was pretty cool. It looked pretty. Oh, never mind.
It had
Okay.
moments, but I wouldn't be like, yeah, you got to watch A Cure for Wellness.
Okay. Like, but it feels like that could be something cool, right? With
Yeah.
like that kind of element to it. That's more of what I was getting at.
For sure.
I still feel like her, like, showing her in, like, the black light as, like, black light doesn't count as real light, haha, was stupid. I
That's
don't
not
think
how
that needed
that's
to
not
be
how
done.
it works.
I know. And it was just like, why Just why do that? Like, her being this entity that only lives in the shadows, I feel is, like, a lot creepier than, oh, but, like, black light, you could still see her. I
Because
just
the
don't
light is
understand.
black.
Which
the
means
shadows
we
are
can
black.
damage her. Which means we can damage her with real light.
It really has a Luigi's Mansion vibe when you
Yeah.
watch that happen. Like, flash the ghost, then skid 'em.
Mario.
Do you think if you like had a black light room and she was in there, you could just shoot her with a gun?
Yeah.
I thought that's what was going to happen. Like I thought,
Because
and I
they
was gonna
set
be
that
like,
up that way, right?
and they somehow do something even more stupid, and we'll get to it when we get to it. But that my opinions on that need to be known off the top.
Another big flaw, and Bobby hit on this with his intro, proving all PG-13 horror movies are bad. There is let me
4
turn to
deaths.
the end. Oh, hold up. There, so the first death is that whole intro sequence was great. I enjoyed
Yeah.
that bit. But that does a better. You could just watch that. It's basically like watching the YouTube short, but a little longer, and you get a more tense storyline. But the next kill
The YouTube short
is
is
an
cooler.
hour after the first. What
Yep.
the fuck are we doing here?
Literally 13 minutes left in the movie is when the next kill happens.
Like,
Yeah.
what are you, and the problem with that too is the better version of this movie, you can do a lot of cool shit with a spirit that can only that it can only exist in the dark. Like, you can do a lot of cool stuff there, and they just choose to show us all this context without making us really care about Diana in terms of her as the spirit or as the antagonist. It's just boring.
Do we care about any of the characters in this movie?
Mhm.
Do we
What's
care
that?
about any of the characters in this movie at all?
Yes.
I actually
One.
really like the dad in the beginning, Billy Burke. What a great he's a total champ, great guy. A waste
We're
of
gonna go
Billy
home,
Burke,
we're gonna
I'm gonna
fix-
say.
We're gonna get your mom better.
Yeah.
I really like Brett.
Why,
The boyfriend.
dude? No,
Because he is Mr. Rational Thinking in a movie that is not.
why? Because he does because he does the one thing the one time.
No, one, he uses his phone light first. The second thing is when he uses the car keys, which is cool, and then he's just like, I'm just gonna call the cops. Like,
No, that's where that's where I disagree entirely. That's not rational. If you have a fucking light shifting demon, do you know what you do when you get away from that demon? You get the fuck out, and those people can deal with their problems. I ain't coming back. Fuck them. That girl Rebecca treats him like shit the whole movie, and he still
But he
just
loves
comes-
her.
Fuck that! She's terrible to him. He can't even keep a sock in one.
yeah, he
yard.
can. At the end, she said that he could keep a sock.
Okay, sure, but that had not happened yet when he has a chance to get away from the killer.
Yeah,
Not
that was
wrong.
a life or death, after they got over everything. Then she's like, "Oh, I guess."
He was playing the long con.
No. He says about they do it beforehand.
Do
They
they?
do it in the bed. Yeah.
Oh,
they do
yeah,
it while
yeah,
the lights
yeah.
are all still on.
You're right.
Yeah. So he knows. He's gotta come
Regardless,
back.
he could have left. I stick to my point.
So here are my notes about Brett specifically.
Uh-oh.
Man respects women's boundaries for dumb reasons. She says you're gonna smell like girly shampoo, and he doesn't follow her to the shower, and then doesn't for cute boundaries when he puts the sock in her when he leaves the sock at her house. Right. Let's see what else we got here. My dad ran off. He literally just met both her brother and her mother, and was like deciding he understands that family dynamic in any way, shape, or form.
He got real judgy about that
Yeah.
whole thing. He's like, you really shouldn't be like that. It's like,
I
the
know
fuck
her
are
half
you?
brother,
Oh,
like
yeah.
young mom. Like there's
Yeah.
clearly a lot more going on here than Sophie's. I think her name was the mom's name.
Yeah.
Yes.
Her like obvious severe depression and mental problems. Like
True.
When he so this is when I decided I hated Brett, and that he was like the one character who I was like, maybe he's okay, is when he decided when he was like, you need to apologize to your brother and your mother for what you did, and I just responded with, okay, this guy sucks, like, because like I'm sorry, here's the thing, right, like, you've been with this person for 8 months, right? That's not a nothing relationship, but like, they're adults, they are both clearly living in like apartments separately from one another, which
they're
means they
supposed to
have
be
their
like
lives.
mid 20s at least, right?
Yeah, so like I that's the part of my life, right? I'm not gonna tell my partner how to who we met last week, how to handle her family business unless she asks me about it, because it's not my fucking place to do that, right? Like, in this,
Especially when like she clearly barely respects your relationship. Like, yeah, like she doesn't want him anywhere
We've
near
been dating
her
for
family.
8 months.
She barely wants.
Yeah,
she won't even call
you're
him her
clearly the winner.
boyfriend. Like, yeah, like I cannot imagine like in a real life scenario that they stay together after that interaction.
Well, now they've been through the ghost, so they have to stay together. That's like, that's
think
binding.
Yeah, but I
There's
think
just
they
a lot
wouldn't.
of really
We just never would have gotten there to the ghosts. He would have already left. Like they have their relationship is so hilariously PG-13, like CW style. Like it is grating at times. I think it's just tough.
I think that's a lot of what this movie is, right? It's a lot of like weird dramatic relationships where the mom is gonna be like, you're gonna say I'm a bad mother, look what happened to you, and it's like, that's your child, dude. So like that's evidence of her case of you being a bad mother. Like,
yeah, seriously.
like I don't understand why that line doesn't make a fucking lick of sense. Like,
I mean, I feel like I was trying to remember, okay, like, why is this family also being attacked? I was trying to, like, remember my first, and I'm like, oh, yeah, it's just, like, her dad, it's the girl's dad. Rebecca's dad is the one who died. And I was kind of like, okay, what, like, now all this is happening. They kind of, obviously, they make it a little bit more obvious that, Diana just wants Sophie all to herself, I guess. And that's why she wants to kill her entire family. But, like, I feel like what Alan was saying about, like, you could have done so much more is if it wasn't, like, focusing on the family, I think would have been a better idea. If this was just, like, a vengeful spirit that was trying to, like, get back at whatever, like, change that up. To where you get cool kills other than taken into darkness, comes back, and is a gross fake dead body just thrown into the light.
well, you can even do this at a PG-13 level in a better way, right? Like, I made fun of all PG-13 horror, but like, there's not bad PG-13. Like,
There are some good ones, yeah.
Yeah, but like, you could have done it. Like, this is actually probably a really good avenue for that, right? Because you can do like a lot of like sound based stuff where there's a lot of like disgusting sounds that happen and you don't see it because it's in the darkness type thing. That they could have done to really like boost the horror, but that would also require them to take a shot at somebody, and they never do. Like, take a shit, like, have Diana kill the mom, Sophie, and like you can even still have it be like, we're connected to one another, and it's like the self-destructive cycle of like not feeling like yourself when you're not on your medication, but sometimes your medication is good for you, because like obviously it's talking like one of the messages they failed to deliver on was like, take your fucking meds if you've got mental health issues,
right?
And
because
like,
there's like an implication that Sophie only came around like because she stopped taking them, and like there's this alternate reality, I think, where there is no ghost. I feel like I bring this up a lot. Like, oh, well, what if there was no monster? Like, but this movie
What if the
really,
monster was man all along?
like, this movie really does kind of lend itself to that situation, right? Where Sophie easily could have just been the villain the whole time, right? You didn't need to have a Diana. I think you probably could have messed with it a little bit to get to that reality. And then the ending would have made a little bit more sense. Like, the movie would have congealed a little bit better, I think. As it stands, it just feels messy because there's a lot of messages that are almost there but not quite. They're like started and then quit. And then Diana as a villain is like explained, but then you don't know what's going on. And like it's tough because I think at the end of the movie you still don't really know what happened. And I think that that's a big part of the issue.
And Diana also talks too much.
Yeah, like a lot. I actually don't remember her talking that much. This was the second time I'd seen it. Yeah, and when I watched it the other night, I was like, like she's like almost like a supervillain kind of character.
My third to last note was just LMAO, and I showed Corbin some of my notes because I was just like, we were talking before the cast, and Corbin's like, my favorite one is LMAO. What is that in response to? And it was response to, leave now or I'll show you where I took your dad. And I was like, this is.
It's in the shadows. I
didn't even bang my desk, but it's the right move. It's just
It'll
like,
stay
what
in.
the fuck? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's just what the fuck, man.
We're like 15 minutes into this, and we haven't really said a lot of good things yet. I know that Grant likes this better than the rest of us did. Grant, I think we owe it to you and probably to this movie a little bit. Tell us what you like about this movie.
And to a percentage of our audience, because they definitely also like this movie.
All right. Yeah,
there's no way it's 100% dislike, right?
I like the playing they do with like the darkness and like the shadows and whatnot, and just like watching her slowly advance through the shadows, like the amount of effects they have on her to look like this, wispy figure is really cool. Like I said, I thought she was really cool until they showed her in the black light, and that's when I thought it kind of lost all that meaning, where like this entity that lives in the shadows can only live in the shadows. You can like play with the light because everybody, like at one point, at least I was afraid of the dark, so like this is what you saw in the dark, and that's why you were scared of it. I thought the characters were pretty cool. I watched the deleted scenes as well, and it kind of did go a little bit more in depth of like, one of the deleted scenes is Rebecca researching how her father died because it was never clear enough, and she calls like a detective and is like, hey, what's going on? And he's just like giving the PR answer about it. But besides that, I feel like there was so much potential for this movie too, with like all you have to do is introduce characters that are like the stock characters that just get killed for the sake of showing how strong this entity is. Yeah. And I think that's where the movie's strength lies, is in the bad guy, the antagonist. Yes. Diana is really cool. And that's just what I think is like her specifically awesome, and you could have expounded on that and made a better story than you did, but I still think this movie had like cool moments.
I will say that, like, to your point, Grant, I think that the Brett like chase scene where like he just barely makes it, I still thought that was fun. I thought that was a cool little moment, right?
There are definitely a few sequences where they really play with the shadows in a fun way. That's a big one. Or like when she grabs him from under the bed, that's like, okay, that was kind of a fun use of the concept.
Yeah.
So Corbin and I actually watched this movie together via Plex, and it was I texted him afterwards because the bed pull scene that got me. I straight up was like, okay, kid's safe. I wasn't even thinking, oh well, of course it's dark under the bed and she can just go to any
monsters
shadows.
Under the bed, dude.
It is a good use of the character and what already exists within the world. And it got me to jump pretty hard. That's one of the better jump scares I've had in recent time. And I can't think of anything else that got me to jump like that recently. I didn't jump in Exorcist 3 for the record. I know that. I'm sorry, but
Well,
we don't
this
need
has
to
been
rehash.
Central Scares.
Alan won't be on the show next week.
Next week we'll have Bobby and Corbin.
You said you jumped when we watched Friday, though, right? The first one at the end.
When?
Oh, with Jason jumping out.
At the end?
I didn't
Yeah,
know.
you know, he didn't know it was coming.
The moment with Brett with the car keys, I remember watching it in the theaters, and as soon as he clicked the car keys to turn the lights on, everybody in the audience cheered.
Yeah, that
because I
was
feel
a
like we
great
all
fear
had
moment.
that thought of like, oh man, and then it happened, and we were just like, yeah, what? Like no one's ever done that, and it's just so cool, and like,
I also feel like Brett was meant to be the likable guy,
100%.
and
Yeah.
me disliking him, I feel like is a me problem.
yeah.
But,
I like Brett quite a bit too.
because I was like this guy like is like hyper needy, like he sucks, like fucking meet her where she's at, my guy. That was
It's
my
supposed to
thought.
show that like
I like
they're
Brett.
at different points in the relationship. Whole
Yeah.
thing, like
Yeah, but, like,
he
if
was
you're a
he was the one that was heads over heels instead of the usual thing that they do in the cinema where the girl is head over heels and the guy's like, nah, I'm not about it. I thought it was cool.
That's fine. That's fine. My thought, and I don't want to get back on the hate train because I like that Brett scene. I thought that was really cool. I thought that they could have done something really, really cool if they would have they had the wind up flashlight. What would have been really cool is if it worked a couple of times, but then it led to somebody dying.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they stopped it, like, oh shit, and they get it right in time, and they get it right in time like 3 times.
And the light's pointing elsewhere, and she's behind him.
Yeah, and they're like, and then and they do the fucking thing where they with like the they do the thing from the short where like she's there and she turns out the light. There were so many moments that could have been just like dope that like they didn't hit, but they were like Corbin said, they were just they were close in a lot of ways, which I think adds to the frustration. It's like man, this was so close to being something cool or interesting, because like the original short that it comes off of, right? I said don't watch it if you don't want to spoil it for you, but you're in the spoiler cast, and if you haven't watched that, watch it. I told Grant when he told me about Lights Out when we originally talked about this like over a year ago at this point. Grant's like, oh yeah, it's based off the YouTube short. I'm like, yeah, I saw the YouTube short. I didn't need more of this movie, and unfortunately, I still don't need more of this movie.
You know, have you watched the YouTube short recently? Did you rewatch it?
Yeah.
So yeah, Alan and I rewatched it as well right after watching the movie. Alan decided to watch the movie first, so he did not watch the short first.
I wanted to give the movie the best benefit of the doubt that I possibly could to meet it on its own grounds as a movie. So I thought, see the movie as it exists and then watch the short afterwards. The short was better.
And so one of the big things that I noticed while watching the short is that even though it's only 2.5 minutes long, right?
That's super short.
There is more like tension and horror built into that short than there is into the entire movie. Even the movie's intro, which is clearly like the longer like story version of the short.
Yeah.
The short is still like, it just does a better job of building the tension. Like you really feel it in the short, I think. Like, there is genuinely good horror there.
Can I speak on that really quickly? Just to tell a quick story about the first time I watched the Lights Out.
Paint us a picture. Let us know.
Okay, so it was right around the time it like came out and it was like gaining that it's like an original steam of popularity.
We were in college, so it was
And
like perfect time.
Yeah. So I was on YouTube.com watching a bunch of like sketch comedy stuff, right? For
As
those
you
of
did.
us who as I did and still do. I'm a big fan of sketch comedy. Auntie Donna, I probably was watching, to be honest with you, which I still watch to this day.
Were they
They're a
around
good
back then?
comedy
10
group.
years ago?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Really?
I've been watching them for 10 years. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm just like late at night, right, just scrolling through, and I see a thing called Lights Out, and because I'm like recommended scrolling through YouTube, I click on it thinking it's a comedy thing, and so I watch it and seeing the light.
No.
The first time I see it, I thought it was funny, right? I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. Like, there's something like that's gonna like, and it's gonna be like a thing. And then I started to feel the tension, and like it was like I was like, fuck, oh no, and I think when he like takes off the blanket, he's the light's still on, and he sees like the Diana like laying there and like turning out the light. I was like, fucking God, no! Like it was like it was like just so good, and so I think it also holds a special place in my heart, just for that reason alone, because I've got that very distinct memory of laying in my dorm room bed, like doing that, right? And then to watch this movie and to never have a moment like that, like, was just kind of
just feels like a big miss. I mean, especially like think about like after Lights Out, the short came out, there was this period of time where YouTube was full of other people making their own horror shorts with the exact same concept, and some of them were pretty good. I mean, there was a couple of years there where like the Lights Out concept was huge. And it is kind of strange, I think, thinking about it all, what a phenomenon Lights Out was, that the you know, the end product, right, the big Hollywood version, got so like studioified almost. Like, I don't think there really was any, but it feels like a studio film, right? It feels like a watered down, like, how do we make money on this concept kind of deal.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, you see the producers behind it, right? I think I hate James Wan. That's another thing I need to say right off the bat is we've watched a decent amount of James Wan films. I know we've got a lot of James Wan fans in our audience. I know we have it amongst the podcast hosts and cast. I think I hate James Wan. I have not. I think he is an auteur. I have respect for him for having creative vision. I just don't know if I like his creative vision.
I think you like two James Wan movies.
Which ones is that?
I think you like the original Saw.
Yes, that movie's a masterpiece. You can't dislike the original Saw.
And of course, Aquaman.
Okay, yeah, but I don't. But Aquaman isn't good. I'm just biased.
I didn't say I think you think two of them are good. I said I think you like two of them.
Yeah. But here's the thing, right? Like, I understand that, like Saw is good, and I don't think you can hate Saw. I don't think
the first one, is like it's it's so objectively good.
Yeah. But like, I get that like James Wan has the ability to like transform the horror landscape, and I get that maybe like it's my controversial opinions related to my Friday the 13th takes, which are objectively correct. It is that like I just don't think like, and like this is like another movie that James Wan has been attached. He was a producer on this movie. He's been attached to in some way, shape, or form that I can feel his presence on, and I distinctly don't like because of it. Because there is that like James Wan kind of like sheen.
I would agree with that.
It.
Like Diana's entire vibe is very.
It's colored. Yeah, it's colorful yet washed out at the same time. There's like this very like melodramatic tone to the shot composition, right? To like the way that the cameras are positioned is very melodramatic. Like, not to mention the melodrama of the characters, right? Which is not distinctly James Wan. It's a lot of horror, but like there's a lot of like how and it's not clearly he's not the director, right? The guy who made the short, I believe, is the director.
Yep.
But like you can feel the influence and probably the deference to a horror icon. But like
he also directed Shazam.
Well,
fun fact.
But Shazam was kind of fun though.
What? Yeah.
So like
it was.
Yeah, so like I don't know if that was I don't and this was not
I think part of it was just that like it was his first feature film, I believe, right, as a Hollywood director. Before that he'd just been doing short films on his own, and I think that sometimes when it's your first movie and you've got a big producer like James Wan who probably like discovered him, right? He's probably the reason why this movie got made. I don't know for sure. I didn't do any research. But a lot of times when you get put in that position, you will allow things to happen to your vision, and that's probably is what happened, because I've seen a lot of things by the director, his other short films, Shazam, even though that's totally different. And I think that he is good. I think that he's a pretty good director overall, So I think that this was just like a first out, like a little bit of freshmanitis,
So
Well, to a certain extent, it's got to be, right? I'll go for it.
Yeah.
Oh no, it was going back. Sorry, it was going back to Diana, and like the thought came to me, and I'm just like, she had a lot of screen time in this movie.
She did,
right? The entity was there a lot, and I feel like there is a graph someplace in the ether that is amount of screen time a killer gets in like correlation with how many kills are occurring, and for the amount of screen time she got, wasn't a lot of kills, to be honest. Like, you could have had random neighbors show up to the house and they could have been fodder. Like, as soon as the cops came in, we knew they were dying. Yeah. Right. All these things you could have done that was just like, bring in fodder. If you don't want the main family to die, just let that happen.
For sure.
So I feel like there are two, when it comes to horror movie killers. If there's a killer, there's a main villain in a horror movie. There's two routes to go, and it is based off of two classic films, right? Psycho and Jaws. You're either a shark or you're a fucking like weirdly charismatic but like quirky, and you want to try to understand it, and then you realize that Norman Bates. I couldn't remember Norman Bates' name for a minute, but now I got there. Norman, you're either a Jaws or you're a Bates. That's what you are, right? So you got a Jason who is a Jaws. You got a Freddy who's a Bates. You got a fucking Michael who's a Jaws. You got a fucking Leatherface who is a Bates, right? Like, you got these, like, when you look at the classics and you look at the slasher villains that have really succeeded, it's Jaws versus Bates every single time.
To add on to that,
yeah, please.
I think watching this movie when I currently watch this movie was probably the worst possible time, in part because of what Bobby is saying. By the time this is live, our first episode of Franchise Dissection is live, and you should go watch it. It's on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. It's a great time. We're going through all of Friday the 13th, and you want to talk about just kills on top of kills on top of kills. I'm 5 movies in at this current point, and you are by no means starved for interesting deaths. So I've been watching 5 movies worth of college age kids being murdered in various ways, and I come to this movie, and it's so lackluster. It's Jason's on the screen all the time, and he's killing. What is her name again?
Diana.
Diana. She's forgettable. I think she's on the screen for so often, and she's doing so little with it. I'm just naturally going to make the comparison because I'm currently watching a lot of Friday the 13th. So I see the potential of like interesting, fun horror, and then I get this.
I don't think it's a fair comparison to be.
It's not a comparison. It's a mindset. I'm like geared up for a certain thing, and I just didn't get anything near that.
So I'm gonna, obviously, and Bobby's on my side here, and I'm sure Grant would be too. It's just not fair, because like Friday the 13th is a slasher, right? Sure. And this is the part of the issue with this movie.
Well, is that in one way.
It can't. Yeah, part of the issue is that it can't make up its mind if Diana is going to be a character killer, or if she's going to be like a paranormal entity that you don't see very often. And a lot of the times, what makes paranormal movies work is that you're not seeing the ghost, the demon, whatever, all the time, right? I mean, even going to James Wan's other stuff, right? The demons aren't there all the time. Watch Insidious or watch The Conjuring, right? They're not there the whole time. Those are long movies with a lot of burn time in them. And that is part of what makes it work, right? And the issue isn't that she isn't killing a lot of people, but that she's around a lot, but not getting a lot done, and so it is minimizing her effectiveness when she is on screen, I think.
Yes.
I think it's fine to have her around a lot, but she has to be effective like all the time.
Yeah. There's only one comparison that you can make between Friday the 13th and Lights Out. There's only one, right? And it's that they're both bad movies. Other than that, right? Other than that, I don't think it's a fair comparison, right? Because I don't think Lights Out was meant to be a slasher flick.
I'm not saying it was.
But here's the thing, right? It's written like a slasher flick, right? Like
there's like inherent problems to the structure of it.
Yeah, the script writing is very slasher in nature, despite this movie never once feeling like a slasher flick. So like the way the characters are so fucking superficial, like every character is so on the nose. I'm the mom with mental health issues. I'm the son who is just kind of kooky, right? I'm the goth older sister, and I'm the rocker boyfriend.
Yep.
Like,
I mean, you mentioned it earlier, but like a lot of
Like-
this movie could have been a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. A lot of it could have been. The characters kind of set up that way. Like the monster only is available during certain periods, right? And that you know, like it has a lot of similarities with that, and I think that's part of what makes it like confusing, you know. And even going back to like, I don't really understand who or what Diana is in the end of it. You never have that question when you watch slashers, or honestly even paranormal movies. Like watch any ghost movie that came in the last 15 years. Like there's no confusion. They answer all the questions.
The fact that they tried too hard to explain it, and you either give me a clear cut explanation, like again, there's a movie that came out recently, within the last couple of years, that's a remake of The Invisible Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Invisible Man remake, right? They explain very clearly how the Invisible Man is doing what he's doing and how he's doing it. They don't cut corners. They don't sugarcoat it. They just go boom, and it's a really, really, I would say that it's a very, very effective metaphor for domestic violence, right? Very much so. This movie is trying to be a movie about like, hey, listen, mental health is not your fault, but it is your responsibility, right? And which a message, frankly, I agree with as somebody who has his own struggles, right? Like, but like, it fails to do it because it tries to over and yet still somehow under explain everything about this movie.
Yeah.
So you're both so you end up, instead of like being like, wow, what a stance to take, or like what a feeling I got from this movie. You're being like, so what the fuck was Diana anyway? Like, what was that? And I think that's, you don't ever want to leave a movie with those types of questions, right? Like, you don't want to be like, they told me and I still don't get it. You want to be like, man, this movie asks so many questions, I'm still trying to figure it out, right? Like, it's like the same, again, a non-horror movie. You guys watch Tenet?
Yeah,
I haven't seen it yet.
dude, it's so good. Yeah,
I know.
Okay, so no, it's not.
Oh yes, it is.
I liked Tenet a lot, but Tenet was either confusing to most people, understandably, or so fucking like it was so fucking eye-rolly in this very same way, where it was like, you explained to me everything, and yet still, like, you leave so many questions that you could have answered and that a better movie would have answered. And like, that's what this is. Like, my score is not going to reflect how much I'm trashing this movie, but I'm trashing this movie anyway. Like, my score will be better than some other movies that we have voted on. But like, it just missed it for me. And I want to say, with all absolute positivity and sincerity to you, Grant, specifically, I wanted you to be right. I wanted you to be right so bad. I wanted to be wrong.
That's
so,
right. I'm with the majority.
so
You can
badly.
stay over there with the minority.
That's fine. That's fine. I am no stranger to controversial opinions in the horror world. I am objectively correct in all of my opinions forever and ever.
So I think to add on a little bit there, not only do you go, what was Diana? You then go, so she killed herself? But Sophie, that is. But the entire Diana person can be controlled with basic antidepressants, but she didn't take those anymore.
What an ugly fucking metaphor that is.
Yeah,
by the way.
that was like that's part of where it falls apart, right? Because Sophie was suppressed for years. You have to make the assumption. The movie forces you to make this assumption that Sophie is with her from the time she's like 12 or whatever for the next like 30 years, right? And so she lives plenty of happy years going to her therapist, taking her meds, being totally cool, and then every time she slips, something bad happens, right? Rebecca's dad gets killed by Sophie, and then she like gets back onto it, and then she meets or not by Sophie, she gets killed by Diana, right? And then she gets back on it and she meets Billy Burke, and then the same thing happens, but then that time like she's totally in a spiral, right? And obviously she could have just went back to the doctor or whatever, and Sophie would have been gone, right? That's the implication of the movie. Like she didn't need to blow her brains out.
So let me just make what we're dancing around very clear as the mentally unwell person in this podcast. Hey, this movie kind of implies that mentally ill people should just fucking kill themselves to lessen the burden on their family, and that's kind of fucked.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
Can't defend that. I sat there and like I was rewatching the movie for the second time, and I went, no, I'm trying to remember what happens to Sophie, and then she has the gun, and I go, oh my god, I forgot about this. And like my brain's going, why did you do this?
Yeah,
my immediate reaction was to type in my notes 7 of the eye roll emojis. I don't put emojis in my notes ever, but I was like, my fucking god, they're seriously like, this movie came out in 2016. This movie came out 5 years ago. 5 years ago. Sorry, I got my 4 and 6s mixed up. 7 years ago. 5 years ago. My bad. 5 years ago. I'm dyslexic. Eat my ass. 5 years ago.
17 years ago.
Yeah.
This is a classic. It's from the 1930s.
This movie came out. This movie came out at the dawn of time. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, my point is like, we knew better then.
Yeah.
We knew better then.
Well,
like,
not everybody.
It's funny also because it's kind of seems like he knew better even, or that he at least like atones for a little bit, because like he plays with those themes in later movies. And I know I've mentioned it already, but like Shazam has a lot of like those undertones, and he does not. They just treat it so much better in that superhero movie, you know, than it is in this movie.
I just wanted it. I wanted it to be good. I wanted it to be good.
Grant mentioned earlier that he watched deleted scenes, and I find it offensive that deleted scenes exist in a fucking 80-minute movie. What did you need to delete? It's not even a full-length movie. What are you doing?
It's actually only 75 minutes long if you don't watch the credits.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing, right? Like there's a thought in Hollywood, right, that a good horror movie is a tight 90, right? This movie is less than that.
It's a loose 75.
But by 15 minutes.
And the funniest part of that is, you know how many minutes of deleted scenes there are?
15
minutes.
So they made a tight 90 and they decided, let's get rid of those scenes.
I'm out of here. This is obscene.
They had a tight 15. They had a tight 90-minute flick. And they went, nah. Like,
75.
Yeah, okay, so that's the thing, right? That only leads to your thought of this movie was absolutely tampered. Like, I don't think they were saving this movie. The script writing was not good. This was I looked it up as we were recording. It's the same guy who made the Thing remake, so like that tells you. Like
That's a
he might
prequel,
be
actually.
good. Okay, shut up. You're right, but shut up.
You're technically correct.
So speaking of the
worst kind
leg,
of correct.
yeah. Alan, one of the discussions Alan and I had, and I think he was going to bring this up, but he unplugged his cord in mid joke.
In my pure rage.
Yeah. I think this would have really worked if it was actually half an hour shorter and part of an anthology series instead. Just like a 45-minute American Horror Stories creep show kind of deal. It probably could have been pretty good. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I stand by what I said. This motherfucker wrote the Friday the 13th remake. No, I'm sorry, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, which is fucking worse. Which is even worse than what I said originally. So he can go fuck himself.
I was gonna say, when you said the Friday remake is pretty good. One of the best Friday movies out of all of them. I said it.
You know what? That was me. That was mean. Eric Heiser, I have some very strong takes on your opinions as a screenwriter. That you're probably a decent person. I apologize if that was rude.
I'm sure he wrote a few movies that you liked too.
I looked. He did. His only certified fresh movie is Lights Out.
Well, there you go.
Oh, actually, wait. I have a question.
Oh boy.
I have a question. Are we okay? So this is pretty.
Sorry, he also wrote Arrival.
That's a really good movie.
Arrival's good.
Yeah.
So he wrote one. I apologize. Again, Arrival's very good.
Corbin, myself, Bobby, clearly didn't enjoy this movie nearly to any degree. Are we just the outliers on this one?
Yeah.
How?
What's the Rotten Tomatoes on this, Bobby? You're looking at it, right?
60%, I believe.
Yes, I got
60?
no problem doing that. It's a 76.
That's
certified.
See, 76 is
with
really
an
high.
audience score of 61.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
that's a very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
is a certified fresh flick.
Most horror movies that you see with a higher critic rating and a lower audience rating are like super artsy movies that a lot of people just like don't get. Sorry if you're one of those people. You probably just didn't get it. So to see a movie like this, hyper mainstream, have a pretty high critic rating for a horror movie, 76 is huge. And then 15 points lower on the audience rating is like, that's wild to me that it would do that.
Okay, so some of the ones are saying that like it's good if you like the short. A lot of people are saying that it's good because it's a shorter film. One of the reviews I just read was it knows not to outstay its welcome, which is a weird.
These
way
are very backhanded compliments.
Oh yeah. Oh wait. How about
76%
from Jeffrey McNabb from the Independent UK. It's in its own deeply contrived way. This film is just as frightening as you want it to be.
Positive.
So like, it's a fresh review.
Yep.
Well,
so there you go.
I don't know, man. Like
maybe this whole podcast
right?
is a fresh review.
Yeah.
There's only one way to find out.
So yeah, we're here. Let's do it.
Grant, why don't you start us out? What do you rate this movie from 0 to 5? Half points allowed.
Yeah. I give it a 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5?
Enjoyed yes. Yep. I will stand by this opinion, even if my opinion has changed for like a little bit. But like, I still had fun watching this movie. I still think that the core element that it plays off of with like the darkness and shadows is definitely worth it. Although I do see like issues with like the, some of the themes it brings up and how it chooses to, I guess, resolve the themes is definitely not the best take in the world. I think that one of the core elements of a horror movie is the big bad and it being interesting. And I think that Diana is very interesting until the black light is it's shined down upon her. And then you're just kind of like, oh, well, all right. And they make sure to do that at the very end of the movie just so you don't have to stick around with that look in your head. So
So
Yeah.
so a year ago, was this like a 4.5 then?
Probably.
Wow. So here's the thing. I really, really, really appreciate not only your honesty, but that you stood by your pick.
Yeah.
I mean, we take turns. If we're not reviewing something new, we take turns picking. This was Grant's pick. He's been waiting for us to do this for forever. Since before we started the podcast, he wanted to do this movie with us. And honestly, a big piece of me is happy that even though you got into horror after this, you still like it.
Yeah.
There's something special there,
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
I'm really happy you enjoy this film. You're wrong, but I'm happy. I really am. I really am, like, sincerely from the bottom of my heart.
Because Bobby doesn't like any bad horror movies.
Oh,
Bobby definitely likes bad horror movies.
I was about to say.
Okay. So I'll go next.
Yeah.
I'll go next. Okay. I'm going to give this movie a 2. Let me go ahead and explain what a 2 means to me. And Grant, you'll get this in a second. Bobby, myself, really likes bad horror. So anything that's like a 1 to 1.5 is like still is essentially a 5 for me, but like objectively I know better, right? So like, let's say, I don't know, the Ghoulies series of films, right? We'll get to them eventually. They're not getting higher than a 2. They can't. They're badly constructed films. That being said, I love those movies. They're fun as fuck, right? Conversely, really good horror movies, which we've discussed, like, I don't know, a movie that we've done already, The Exorcist 3, right? A movie that is beyond reproach in every sense of the imagination, right? A 2 is probably the worst spot you're going to be when it comes to movies. It's a movie that is technically proficient, but goddamn, I don't give a shit about it, right? Like, even like a 1.5, like The Purge, whatever the fuck we watched.
The Forever Purge.
That's the one. That probably could have that was a 1.5 that could have been a 2. It's a technically proficient movie. The director clearly knows what they're doing. The producers clearly had a hand, right? But it just misses. It just misses. It's a movie that you'll watch once, go, oh yeah, it was probably interesting, and people really liked it at the moment and said it was good. And if I watched it in theaters, I might have felt that way in theaters. Or probably not. Let's be honest. You guys have been in theaters while I've watched movies. And it's just not it for me. It's fine. If you like the short and you are less of a cynical dickhead like me, you might really like this movie. And fucking, you might be like Grant. And in all honesty, I wish I had Grant's optimism. I just don't. It's a 2. That's what it is for me.
Honestly, great reasoning, right? I love your thought process there, and I've thought about that a little bit myself, right? And part of it is because I really wrestled with where to place this movie.
Fair enough.
Because I really didn't like it this time. My memory of it was that I enjoyed it, but that it wasn't that good, right? And so this time, my thought of it is that I didn't enjoy it, and it's not very good. But we've definitely watched things that are just objectively worse, right? Famously, I think, we don't need to redo this one, or it'll be up on our Patreon one day, but we did Silent Night, Deadly Night, right? And this is always one of the ones that I think of. That movie is a total blast. I absolutely love it. It's not that good, but I give it a 1.5 and then said I'll watch it over and over and over again, right?
For sure.
And recently on this show, we reviewed Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, an absolutely terrible TV show / movie that I gave a 1 out of 5. And I would absolutely much rather rewatch Infinite Darkness than Lights Out. I just would.
I'm not going to go that far.
I went that far. I'll watch Infinite Darkness tomorrow, if that's what it's I wanted to give it a 2 for reasons that you mentioned. I just can't bring myself to do it because I've given movies that I thoroughly enjoyed a 2. It's a 1.5.
I kind of had a similar struggle recently. I was thinking back with Resident Evil Infinite Darkness as kind of a point of comparison because it's recent and whatnot. I believe I gave that a 0.5.
The second lowest possible score.
Yeah. And I'm not about to give Lights Out a 0 because I just won't. But I think effectively by giving Lights Out a 1, I'm saying that I think I misscored Resident Evil because I definitely also would rather watch Resident Evil Infinite Darkness than Lights Out again. I was bored throughout most of the film. It felt like
you guys
2
were
hours.
Less bored
Yes.
in Infinite Darkness?
100%.
I'm sorry, guys.
They're
I'm
RE
sorry,
fanboys,
guys.
though.
That's
No,
true.
I'm more of a, no. I am more of an RE fanboy than they are, and that movie fucking sucked.
Yes,
it was
turn
bad.
them on each
It
other.
was bad.
No,
But
it was terrible.
It was
it was not
way
a
worse
fun
than
time.
this.
I would rather watch
This was 80 minutes. I'm pointing to the TV I watched it on. This was 80 minutes. We did
and it
not.
felt like 160. That's the problem. It felt so long, but it wasn't. I was dragged through this movie. Whereas with Resident Evil, it was dumb.
Guys, you're gonna make
but I
me
watched
defend
it.
Lights Out. I don't want to do that.
Too bad you're in that position, buddy.
I didn't think Resident Evil is bad. It was terrible.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I didn't hate
100%.
my time with it. Go back and watch that episode. I mentioned several times that there were parts that I liked and that I would probably watch it again. And
I was fighting against you hand and foot
Yeah.
the entire way. I explained to you objectively
Yeah.
because I'm correct on everything why that was wrong. You know what? Fuck it. Lights Out. 4 out of 5.
Okay, there it is.
1. It's a 1 for
Please,
me.
please keep it at 2. I don't.
Nope, clip
mean
it and
that.
chip it, boys. Clip it and chip it.
Oh man, how are we gonna? This is gonna be an interesting, essential discussion.
No, it's
I think.
not. I can make it very quick.
we're about to find out. Yeah.
Take it away.
So, is this movie essential? Scores don't matter. Is it essential to horror? Obviously, spoiler free. Grant, you said you're going to get it over with quickly.
Yep.
Do it.
So I already knew what my answer to this was before I rewatched it a second time. And I don't think it's changed because I am very adamant on the fact. It is not essential.
Oh, thank God.
It is not essential at all. If you want something that I would consider more essential, it would be the YouTube short. That'll save you 60 minutes. So save that hour. No, probably not, but you know what I mean. It just, the movie itself doesn't add proper things to the story. Like, all the stuff is kind of just the family story instead of actually doing anything meaningful with the entity. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's very simple.
Yeah.
I'd like to counter that.
Oh, boy.
Yes, that's right. I like to counter that. I'd like to counter that for a very interesting reason. I'm going to say that Lights Out is essential in the opposite reason that there's something weird about the Johnsons. Another horror movie short. And maybe that's the wrong title for it. I never get that title correct. But it's the guy who made Hereditary and Midsommar's original short.
Ari Aster, yeah.
Yeah, Ari Aster. It's Ari Aster's first short film. Thank you.
There's something about the Johnsons. I think that's the title.
That's the one. There's something about the Johnsons, right? Shows why this is important, right? Because Lights Out, the short film, was critically important to horror. It showed that horror had legs on the internet in a way that was very that new media could do horror, right? And then Hollywood got a hold of it. Not just as director, but the IP itself, and fucking shat the bed.
I knew.
Right?
In
the opposite area, Ari Aster's There's Something About the Johnsons led to Hereditary, right? Which if we want to take this to a certain essentiality discussion, is respect the mind, not the IP.
Mm-hmm.
Right? somebody again, you can, especially when it comes to horror, someone like a John Carpenter, a Wes Craven, right? There are minds that come in horror, right? Pasmos Cosmatos, right? A Dario Argento, right? There are minds that, and I'm only sticking with horror, but like you can think of like a a fucking Spielberg, a fucking George Lucas, right? Like there are minds that come to horror that like, or move film in general that like can like manipulate the way you see the world. Allow those minds to come up with new creative ideas, and if they can't, then it's okay. They have their imprint on the world. They can move on to other things, right? Non-creative ideas or other creative projects. Artists are going to be artists. Do not pigeonhole somebody, and especially don't pigeonhole them into a movie where they do not they're not allowed their creative vision. I find this to be a glaring example in modern media about this, right? And especially it's the most recent example about it. Is it truly essential on its own merit? No, it's not an essential flick. And I would never throw it on a list. I just wouldn't. I didn't enjoy the movie. That being said,
but you gave it a 4 out of 5.
I go back. Don't watch the spoiler cast, please. Christ,
Bobby.
watch the spoiler cast.
Bobby, don't doubt my ability to edit, buddy.
Oh God, Alan
You don't
edited
control the
podcast.
content, buddy.
No. Anyway, my main point is no, it's not. But I think every time I think that there's a discussion that needs to be had, and I think this movie does have an interesting discussion to it. It's a discussion that we didn't have during the spoiler cast, and it's probably a discussion that we'll have in private for a while. But I think that it's an interesting one nonetheless.
Yeah. It's interesting, I think, that you brought up that angle. We mentioned it during the spoiler cast, but this movie is produced by James Wan, right? Who famously got his start the exact same way.
Very true.
Saw, his very first movie, a modern masterpiece, was an extrapolated version of a 5-minute version of Saw.
Which is also really good for what it's worth.
It is, actually. It's included in the special features of every Saw DVD ever, so check it out for sure if you haven't watched it. And so Lights Out is a very interesting because, they're both, James Wan is attached to both projects in some way, and it's a very curious comparison, even much more directly than Ari Aster, because it's the exact same concept blown out, right?
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
And so you can kind of see like, okay, where can this go? How can this go right and how can this go wrong? Both for horror, where they both blew up in very similar ways. I totally agree that the short film is essential. I mean, I can't imagine that people would disagree. Alan, maybe he didn't like the short film as much. Bobby has me thinking, though, and this might be the first time I've ever changed my mind on air, right? Usually I come in with an opinion that I'm very steadfast about. And I think that my answer would be no, it's not essential, but that yes, if you care about film making and behind the scenes and not just what are the stories we tell that you see on screen, but what are the stories behind the screen, I think that this probably plays an important role there. It's similar almost to the way that I talked about Fear Street, where I was like, okay, this is maybe an interesting documentary later, but the movie itself is like, okay, it's good, but it's not like incredible. So maybe I don't know. It's both, I guess. It's a no if you're just trying to watch movies. It's a yes if you're trying to learn about movies.
Objectively right all the time. Let's go.
This is a really good argument I didn't think about.
It was something that was brewing in my head the entire cast. So I'm glad it resonated with you, because it was something that I'm still thinking about. But yeah,
I hate all of what was just said. I'm sad. I don't care about that. This movie was bad. It's not essential. The short was fine. The short's probably essential. So to touch on the short a little bit, to elaborate, I watched it, and I think I said afterwards something to the effect of, this is just a visual creepypasta, and not a good one at that. And
No, I think it's pretty good creepypasta.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
It is just a visual creepypasta.
You need to go on our no sleep more often, my guy. There's a lot of like, and then the demon bled from its eyes, and it was very spooky, scary.
I guess
Yeah.
so. One
for
of the
every
big
goat,
problems,
for every goat man, you've got.
you've got 10 Squidward suicides.
one of the big problems too with, and this isn't the fault of the short because of when it came out. The girl, the demon lady in the short looks like a Titan from Attack on Titan, and I wasn't. She does, and like that.
No. So here's the worst part, right? And I'm gonna get political for about 5 seconds.
boy.
She looks
boy.
like Marjorie Taylor Greene, so you're absolutely right about that.
Marjorie Taylor Greene does look. Oh no,
She looks like a Titan.
Oh, you're so
they
right.
both look like Titans.
But like I saw that, and that was my first thought was not fear, but that's a Titan, and that's not. I don't hold that against the short per se.
So wait,
because
so here's the thing. Attack on Titan came out either contemporarily to or slightly after.
Yeah, it was very
Sure.
close.
Lights Out.
Very
I
close.
didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't see this short. I didn't see this short when it released. I saw this short a day ago after I watched the movie.
2 days.
But
2 days ago.
Hard no on Lights Out as essential. You don't need to watch this movie. Period. I don't care about Bobby's argument. Sorry, Bobby.
It's a good argument,
As
though.
objectively correct as it is.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't. I truly don't. I think when I look back and think of this movie,
Get me out of here.
I'm not going to think about any of that anything. I'm going to think, oh, that was the bad movie that I didn't enjoy much of anything of.
Okay.
I'm just that's how I'm going to look at it.
Hey, speaking of Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan, the remake, also known as a bad movie. Hey, where can we find you? What are your handles?
Let's start with Grant. Grant, you've been gone for a little bit. What have you been up to the last couple of weeks?
Oh boy.
And where can people find you? Do you ever talk about your off-screen adventures?
Not really, no, actually. I mean, I built a PC, so that's what I've been up to. I've been playing a lot of SWTOR, Star Wars The Old Republic. That's really fun. I played WoW until they got canceled.
Hey, real quick.
As you should.
Real quick. Fuck Blizzard real quick. Huh?
True.
Fuck Blizzard.
Fuck Blizzard, yeah.
I say as you should,
I
but
actually-
I'm 100% going to play Diablo 2. I'm so sorry. I'm weak. I'm a piece of shit. I'm a cuck. Whatever you want to use. I'm sorry.
Unbelievable.
Sorry. Me too.
I almost played Overwatch. I stopped myself, but I almost did.
I've played Diablo 3 a lot lately, so I'm a lost cause.
It happened. I hit gold in League of Legends for the first time. Feeling good. I know.
You didn't stream it though, did you? You said you would and you didn't.
No, I didn't. The funny part is like basically my first series I tried to get in and I lost 3 games straight. So you have promotions. And so I went down and then I went back up and it gives you a free win if you've been in promotions and it didn't work. And I went, sweet, win my next game. I'm like, now all I need to do is win one of these 3 games. Proceed to lose the next 2. And I'm just like, please no.
So you have to win.
Please no. And like it was a barn burner. It was a 40-minute game, very, very close. And at one point, I missed a smite on Baron, and I thought that was going to lose us the game. And I went, this is why I'm in silver. This is why. and I actually was able to turn it around, and I had a good play that brought us back into the game. And I was like, oh, thank God. And we won, and I'm in gold now.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
So the goal now is when you come back in 2 weeks for Candyman, please do not have dropped back down to silver, right?
In fact, if you don't get platinum, you're not allowed
There's
to
no
come
way.
on for Candy.
There's no way I'm going to be able to grind 2 weeks for platinum, bro. You know how long it got me to get to freaking
Everybody knows how long.
Yeah, well, be better faster. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, okay.
Become
I'll do my
younger so
best.
you're better at the video game.
Yeah.
And you can find me everywhere at GFooty, GFOOTEY.
Nice. Bobby, how about you?
You can find me through my Twitch, twitch.tv/theredweenie. All of my relevant socials are posted there on my page. Corbin keeps asking me if I'm going to change all of my relevant socials to the same handle. I will not be, so feel free to find me on twitch.tv/theredweenie. I typically stream Destiny content or whatever horror game we might be playing for the podcast. Recently, I have not been playing or watching much of anything. I watch a lot of Big Brother, which is a reality TV show on CBS that I am obsessed with. Next season, I will be auditioning. So we're gonna see if I get in the Big Brother house, and you guys can watch my adventures through this podcast almost assuredly, because I will force my friends to watch it for me while I'm there, if I'm there. In addition to that, I have been playing a lot of Warhammer. Most recently, I have absolutely beaten the fuck out of Corbin's Thousand Suns with my orcs. And hopefully, again, I'll have a great match with Grant coming up tomorrow after day of recording. We're going to record on Thursdays. Me and Grant are planning our matches for Friday. We'll see what happens. I'm currently undefeated in Warhammer 40k. We'll see if that maintains or if it doesn't. If it doesn't, totally cool. It was fun while it lasted. Me and Corbin recently split a box of Thousand Suns and Grey Knights. If you know what that means, great. If you don't, I don't want to explain it to you. That's been my most recent obsession. Besides horror shit. Twitch.tv/theredweenie.
Nice. So I'm just going to bounce off of that because you brought up Warhammer. You can find me anywhere at Corbangarang. I tweet a lot. So if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see me talking about stuff. I tweet mostly...
Especially if you tweet the...
Go ahead. No.
I was going to say, especially if you tweet the Essential Scares.
Mm-hmm.
Corbin runs our Essential Scares podcast Twitter.
Yeah, I'll get back to you right away. I'm on there all day on my phone, so I'm ready to interact.
It's true, I get the notifications.
Yep. But on my personal account, I tweet about Halo, Transformers, Warhammer sometimes. Bobby mentioned it. I play Thousand Suns. We just got a huge new codex update. I'm also playing Grant next in 2 weeks, and I cannot wait to squash those bugs with my new powers. I am buffed, and I'm excited. Recently, I played the Halo Infinite flight. We talked about that a little bit. It's awesome. I played the Back for Blood beta. It's not very good. And I've been playing a lot of Diablo 3, which is as good as it always is. If anybody has any questions about Back for Blood, I'm happy to answer them now on the podcast.
Oh no, it's bad?
It is... Imagine Left 4 Dead 3 came out in 2013, when it should have, before all the other games in the genre came out and improved the genre and made advancements. And now you're just getting that game, but 8 years later. That's basically what it is. It is Left 4 Dead 3 in every positive and negative way that you can imagine. It's fine. It doesn't play like a game that's going to come out in 2 months, I'll tell you that much. But it's on Game Pass. We're going to do it for the podcast, and I'm going to try and stream the beta some more this weekend. Follow me on Twitch at Corbangarang. Alan?
You can find me at a Seal Punter just about anywhere. I will be jumping in because I'm a piece of shit to the Diablo 2 beta. I know, Bobby, you're right. I don't disagree with you. I don't. You're correct. I'm sorry.
Hold the picket line, my guy.
You don't understand.
Jesse McCree just got fired today,
and I agree with
guy.
that. Glad.
I know,
Good.
but there's still so many people who need to be gone before.
In my defense, I didn't buy it. Corbin did.
In
so the
my
money
defense,
already went
it
there.
was
So
developed by Vicarious Visions.
And in Corbin's defense, I'm almost 100% positive he got it before all of the awful news
Oh, absolutely.
dropped.
Yeah. But I haven't been up to much. I haven't played nearly enough games. I have been listening to The Dark Tower via Audible because it's amazing. Got through the first 3 books, and I'm on Wizard and Glass right now, Bobby.
One of the best books of the series.
It's either my second or third favorite. It just depends. This is my second time through the series. It's amazing. If you haven't read his books, you should. I also cracked open The Stand because I'm apparently a glutton for torture last night before bed.
The Stand's so good.
I've never read The Stand. That's one that's on the bookshelf, and same with like 11/22/63. That's probably the next book to crack for me after I get through The Stand in months' time because it's a massive book. But yeah, haven't played nearly enough games. Hades is on Game Pass. Sorry, that just came to me. If you've got Game Pass, go play Hades. Amazing game. Phenomenal. 100% worth your time.
I have one question for Alan.
Fire away.
I've been actually watching a lot of pro disc golf, and I want to know who your favorite
my favorite disc golfer is?
Yeah.
Eagle McMahon or Simon Lizotte. Take your pick. I throw
Okay.
Discmania anyway, so that they're the two best pros on Discmania.
I'm a big Kevin Jones guy.
Oh, Kevin Jump on Jones. Yeah, he's great. Kevin's really fun if you watch any of the pro skins matches. He's a ton of fun. The skins matches on YouTube by GK Pro are the easiest way to get into disc golf because it's just they're just playing and talking shit the whole time. It's phenomenal. So
That's awesome.
it's great.
Hey, slightly different question for you, Alan.
Okay.
Specifically for the 2 people who've also read Up to Wizard and Glass in the Dark Tower, which original member of the quartet would you say that you most identify with?
Okay, so that's like such a loaded question for me because it's Elaine and I'm Alan.
That's fair.
Like it's so fun, but like 100%. Corbin, if you had read these books and you'd gotten through Wizard and Glass, you'd be like,
I would have
yeah.
said you're an Elaine. Who would you
Of
say
course.
we all are in the quartet?
Oh
of
shit!
super people?
Oh my
Yeah.
god!
Who's Roland and who's Cuthbert? That's the real question.
You're Cuthbert. I'm sorry. You are.
I know.
And Corbin is Roland.
Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. I would have gone back for Susanna 100 times out of 100. There's no way. And,
Yeah.
And Corbin would always go ever to the tower, right? Like, there's no way. I know that about myself.
It's good that you know that.
Yeah. Cuthbert, the better character. I want to get the albatross. I want to get like an albatross necklace, because he finds an albatross skull and he puts it on a necklace. He's a really cool character.
We'll
why I
cover
love
this
Wizard and Glass so much. Yeah.
in a side series later.
We absolutely will.
Yes, we absolutely will.
Speaking of that side series, go check out Franchise Dissection. It's a wonderful show that I actually host, so it's a fun time.
Yep.
You should come watch it on YouTube.
I may or may not be on one episode.
You can.
Is
It's
it
a fun
Jason
time.
Takes Manhattan?
I don't know what episodes you guys have done yet, so I don't want to say which one I want to be on.
That's number 8, so you're pretty safe.
You got some time.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
Speaking of, Franchise Dissection. It's on our YouTube. Episode 1 is live now. If you're on our YouTube already, just click on over and watch that bad boy.
Let me go ahead and say this as the resident hater of Friday the 13th. The best piece of Friday the 13th content you ever gonna get. It's coming from Franchise Dissection.
Damn.
While you're there, follow the podcast everywhere else at Essential Scares. We are on Twitter, we're on Instagram, Facebook, Reddit. We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord. Click the links, join, talk to us. It's great. I remembered in the interim that I've been tweeting as the Essential Scares podcast for the 100 horror movies in 92 days challenge that Spooky Sarah Says started. She's from the Final Girls Feast podcast. Most recently, I watched Psycho Gorman, which is on Shudder, and is a 100 out of 10. It is
10 out of 10, Bob.
so good.
Yeah.
If you like 80s or 90s horror and or Power Rangers, you owe it to yourself to watch that movie. It's incredible. But
wet puppets, as Mildred from Scaredy Cat says. Wet puppets.
With that, that's the show this week, guys. Thank you so much to everybody for watching. If you like the show, give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. I know you're watching and you haven't subscribed. I see the numbers. I know it's true. Next week, we're going to be talking Don't Breathe 2. Thank you to Alan, Bobby, and of course, Grant for being on the show this week. I have been your host, Corbin, and this has been Essential Scares.
This breakdown has not been sponsored by Fat Bellies, but it could be.